Gambarian, who is the wife of Binance official Tigran Gambarian, has called on the American government to come to the rescue of her husband. In her statement, Mrs. Gambarian berated how she feels that the Nigerian government is holding her husband, and I quote, hostage as a scapegoat in the Binance case, in what she calls increasingly deplorable conditions as he has been remanded to Kuje prison. She went on to say that international businesses should be very careful of doing anything in Nigeria, as their employees could suddenly be held hostage by the Nigerian government and treated like criminals for no reason. Her husband remains detained in Nigeria after his colleague Nadeem Anjarwalla escaped from EFCC custody in a guest house in Abuja, of course following charges of tax evasion amongst other charges related to economic sabotage. In our next story, CNN international correspondent Larry Madowo has raised concerns over the steep entry visa fees charged by Nigerian immigration. He highlighted the financial burden imposed on travelers, especially those from African nations, due to Nigeria's visa policies. According to Madowo, who holds a Kenyan passport which allows visa-free access to several African countries, including Uganda, South Africa, and Ghana, Nigeria's visa fee structure stands out as excessively high at $215.
Because actually I was here 3 weeks ago, and one more time I've been charged $215 for a 1-month single entry visa. And here's the thing, the visa itself costs $25, but Nigeria charges you $170 for biometrics every single time, and then for good measure another $20 for processing. So it makes sense for me. My fingerprints have not changed since I was here 3 weeks ago. Why am I paying another $170 for biometrics? And after that,
all right, I'll take one quick tweet. Nigerians too, this is from Abdul Razak on Twitter. Nigerians too are still paying to enter many African countries. Do you know how much we pay to enter South Africa? While you're right that the continent should be free for all, every country must be ready to fully implement the free trade agreement to remove all the obstacles. Another tweet from Tendai Dara says a flight from London to Nigeria costs almost double the price of a flight from London to any African country, yet you spend less than 10 hours traveling. Something doesn't add up about traveling to Nigeria from any part of the world, and their visa sounds affordable until they charge $170 to $180 for biometrics, as if they want to do a surgical operation to get the fingerprints. What is it about Nigeria that makes it so expensive to visit? Right. So many people love traveling to Nigeria. I personally haven't had these issues, so I don't think this is a general thing. But do you think there are things we could do better? What are your comments on these stories, especially pertaining to, foreigners in Nigeria? Personally, I think as a foreigner, I've been treated amazingly in Nigeria.
Thank you for that vote of confidence. I think you have just said it well. We are the best place and the best people in terms of hospitality, but on a serious note, we have had these complaints about how sometimes it can be difficult to transit within Africa, and that has to be said. And we've often talked about how that impacts on trade, impacts on tourism, impacts on even the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, and how it hampers that. So maybe we should look into that. The only spotlight I'd like to say, biometrics every single time. Does it change? I mean, so these are some of the loophole or the things, corruption that we can take out of the process to make it easier.
Well, quickly, I think Larry Madowo's complaint should not be dismissed by Nigerians. The Ministry of Interior should look into it. Immigration should look into it. Some people say, oh, they paid $120 to get visa from Nigeria. Some people say they paid more than $200. The discrepancy doesn't make sense. And, this idea of biometrics every time is right in terms of the concern that he has expressed. Don't forget also that he's from Kenya. In December 2023, the government of Kenya declared visa-free for anybody from any part of the world. So if a Kenyan comes to Nigeria and it goes through so much stress, it's not as if the process in Kenya, the digital platform they say they have introduced at the entry point, it's not as if it's so easy anyway. But at least, that's where he's coming from. Number 3 is also right when he talks about African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Integration is one of the pillars of that EFCTA, So if we're going to integrate, there should be free movement. So these are some of the issues. I don't think we should just dismiss him. He's a journalist, by the way, a CNN correspondent, isn't he? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you very much.